Everyone. Wow, what a show that was. UFC 166, indeed, I'm talking about. And my God, I feel like my bloodlust has been completely satisfied. And if you know me, I have a huge lust for blood. And bloody hell, I mean, that was a great show. Things I want to talk about before we get onto the main card. I was so happy that KJ Noons beat George Sotiropoulos. I don't know what it is about George Sotiropoulos, but I've never really liked him for some reason. I don't know if it's just that stuff on The Ultimate Fighter and then Tough Smashes, or there's just something about him that just rubs me the wrong way, but for some reason I've never really warmed to him. Respected his skills as a grappler and as an MMA fighter, but I've never really, there's something about him I've never really warmed to. And he just, I don't know what it is, I hate that, no, I don't hate that guy. He just, certain fighters just rub you the wrong way. I mean, that was a very good show in a lot of ways. I mean, there was fights on the prelims and on the undercard that I was very pumped for because you just knew there was going to be some great fights and some interesting things to see. And then we move on to something else I wanted to talk about, and that was Hector Lombard at 170 fighting Nate Marquardt at 170. And for those of you that might not be aware or probably forgotten, there was a bit of a war of words with those two a few years back when Nate Marquardt when that whole issue with Nate Marquardt and the TRT came out in 2011 and he was released from the UFC, and there was this controversy about that. And I know that Hector Lombard made quite a few comments about it and offered him out and wanted to fight him because of it. Marquardt goes to 170, looked great against Tyrone Woodley, and then since then hasn't really looked that good. He looked very sluggish against Tariq Saffiedine. He looked on fire and, it looked like he had a bit of bounce to him against Ellenberger, but got knocked out. So this was a crucial fight for him and a crucial fight for Lombard, who's fighting at 170, a weight class that I think he should be fighting at. And I always felt that he was a bit... See, the word overrated is not a bad word, but I do think that when I'm watching a UFC interview with Dana and Karen Bryant, and they're like going on like this guy's the fucking second coming of Mike Tyson, I don't see it. Not at 180. I don't see it. And Anderson would kill that guy. But I think at 170, where his frame is a little bit better for if he can just kind of get the weight off properly, he might be more competitive there. Even though he was unbeaten at middleweight. But I think if you're going to fight the top guys in 185, I think he'll struggle. And I believe that was the case. Anyways, Lombard and Marquardt fight. They get into a bit of a gunfight and then Lombard knocks him down and stops him. And I think that he looked good at 170. I'm not going to start overhyping him. I know that whenever a guy knocks someone out at 170, everyone starts going, this guy's going to beat George St. Pierre. This guy's going to beat Carlos Condit. This guy could be welterweight champion. And then it never happens. I'm just going to take a wait and see approach with him at 170. As for Nate Marquardt, that's his third loss in a row. Lost to Tariq, lost to Ellenberger, lost to Lombard. He might be on the chopping block, so that's quite worrying. A guy next to me said at least we know who John Fitch's next opponent is. So I was like, good lord, that might be the case. Who knows? Does anyone out there think that Marquardt should be kept? Anyways, now we go on to the main card. It was good to see John Dodson. I know that I believe he won, because I only saw like the first minute, and then I had to go out because of an emergency. So if anyone saw the Dodson fight, please tell me what happened, because I can't remember off the top of my head. I saw Gonzaga's fight. Gonzaga winning by stoppage, that was good for him. I think that was good for his confidence, and I think that was a good way to get him back, on notice again, because I think Gonzaga, he got a lot of hype when he knocked out Mirko Cro Cop with a move Cro Cop had perfected, and he was the Cro Cop killer, and he fought Randy Couture, and he had a lot of shine at that time. But then after the Couture fight, he disappeared. In a lot of ways, kind of fell off. He was out of the UFC. He lost to Brendan Schaub. Even though he could have won that fight, in my opinion, he lost to Brendan Schaub, and now he's back. And it looks like he's starting to kind of garner some momentum. It was good to see him come out on the winning end. Now we talk about Daniel Cormier and Roy Nelson. I was nervous for Cormier's chin. I'm not going to lie. Roy Nelson is a tough man. In bricks in both hands. He can take a shot. I don't think that Daniel wants to get into a gunfight with Roy Nelson because we know how that usually ends. But again, Daniel did what he needed to do. He had him up by the fence, used his wrestling, moved around a lot, punched him up a bit. Cormier looked very, very good. I think he looked a lot better in this fight than he did against Frank Mir. I honestly believe the nerves got to him in the Frank Mir fight, and he just, was a bit flat. He's, losing the weight, and he wants to go down to 205, and he's going to 205. And that will be very interesting to see how he adjusts to the weight class. I believe he was 225 pounds for this fight, so he's gone from about 250 to 225. That's good to see he's dedicating himself to get into the kind of shape he needs so he can cut to 205. That will be very interesting, and he's in a very, very interesting division, and I don't know who they match him up against for his first fight. I think they should do him and Gustafsson right off the bat, but I don't think they will. I think that would be a great fight. Then you got the two best going up against each other, and then you've got no argument as to who gets the next shot once that fight happens. So I think that Cormier and Gustafsson would be a great fight. Maybe Cormier and I don't know, who else could you put Cormier in there with? Don't know. I mean, you lot are better suggesting these things than I am. And then we get to the fight that I was most excited for, more so than the heavyweight title fight, because I am, and if you've been on this channel long enough, a huge, and I mean ginormous fan of the 155 pound weight class, and I have come on here time and time again, and I've said this, that in my opinion, if you are the guy that dominates at 155, if you're the guy that dominates that weight class with the caliber of fighters that you've got fighting at that weight, whether it's on your way up, you've got some exciting fighters, then you've got some very good fighters, and then you've got some very elite fighters, and you've got some difficult challenges. You've got Pettis, you've got Thompson, you've got Melendez, you've got Sanchez, you've got Eddie Alvarez, who doesn't fight in the UFC, but he's a 155, but Michael Chandler, another 155 outside of the UFC. You've got other people in there, Frankie Edgar, Benson Henderson, all these great fighters who can fight at that weight. And in my opinion, if you're the guy that comes out and dominates everybody in that weight class, then in my opinion, you're the man. Because I think that is the most talent-filled and stacked division in the UFC and in MMA in general, in my opinion. And we get to the fight, Diego Sanchez back at 155. He fought Gomi at 155 too, sorry. Versus Gilbert Melendez, who in my opinion, I believe he beat Ben Henderson, and in my opinion is the best 155 pounder, and I've been saying that since about 2009. I felt that he was the best 155 pounder, and I felt that he needed to be more confident and actually come out and say it. And I've seen him come out there, and this guy will go to war and he'll give you a fight, and he's like the best fighter that people just don't know about, in my opinion. And he had that fight on the Strikeforce show the same night as Diaz and Daly, and the guy looked amazing, and he was overshadowed by Diaz, obviously, because that wasn't a great fight. But in my opinion, if Gilbert had said, I want Frankie Edgar, I want the title at 155, then I think he would have beaten Edgar, in my opinion. I think he can beat Edgar. I think we already know he can beat Josh Thompson. I think him and Pettis is very close, but I could see him giving Pettis a lot of problems. And him and Sanchez, I was so excited because Diego, this is the thing I love about Diego. Yeah, he's a bit, nutty, and he, chants yes, which I love. And, he has his, he's in Diego land a lot of the time. But this guy comes to fight, and he comes to put on a show, and I love the energy he brings to a fight. This isn't someone that's just going to go through a takedown, hold on to the leg, and then hit the hips, and then come out and say, well, I was working the entire time. No, this is a guy that will fight, whether it's standing, whether it's up in the clinch, whether it's on the ground. This guy is going to finish you. He's trying to advance his position. He's going for it. And you have that, and you have Gilbert Melendez, who's a freaking warrior, the fucking Mexican Superman. And they just went after it, and it was this great fight. I see Melendez hitting him with some great shots to the body. And then it's like the last couple of seconds of each round, it just turned into an absolute gunfight. It was like they were just going bang, 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 they're going for it, bang, 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 bang. And I was just like, oh my god! And you could just feel the energy and the atmosphere in the people there just going to like fever pitch. People were going mad. It was a great, great fight. Then the second round, the same thing. Oh my god, these two are just going for it. They're like absolute animals. And then the third round, I thought the third round was the best round of all the fights. And I'll tell you what, I got so into that fight, I forgot that this was a 3-round fight. and I thought we were going to get 5 rounds. I completely forgot there was a heavyweight title fight. That fight was just, oh my God, mind-blowing, absolutely just non-stop. Bang, 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 bang. The third round, when I had Goldberg say, this is the third final round, I was like, shit, come on, can we have 2 more rounds? Apparently Diego Sanchez said the same thing. But the third round, they started going for it. And then there was a point when they stopped the fight because of the cut for a few minutes. And then I was like, fuck. And all the fans were booing, let's start the fight again. Fight restarts. They just fucking went for it. These guys were like fucking, it was like Wolverine Berserker Age, like live and in colour. They were just going, and then Diego just drops him with an uppercut. And I fucking jumped out my chair. Oh my God, he's going to finish him! Gilbert, recover! Gilbert, recover! I was like, oh my God, Gilbert, don't lose this one. And I do like Diego. And he recovered. And I was just like, oh my God. My adrenaline was going. And then they got into another bit of a gunfight. And it was over. I was just like, you know what? Fuck John Jones Gustafsson. And that was a great fight. Fuck it. Give the Melendez and Sanchez fight of the year. That was a great fight. And again, it just tells me, and I feel justified in feeling the way I do about that weight class, and why I think that the 155 weight class is the most exciting weight class in all of MMA. And guys, that was a great fight, and I'm looking forward to seeing Melendez and whoever the winner of Thompson and Pettis is. And I'll tell you right now, I think that this has done a lot of, both Sanchez and Melendez, a lot of favours. They've had this war, they've had this great fight, it lived up to the hype. And I think for Melendez, his stock's probably going to substantially raise, because that's the one thing, it's just getting his name out there. And I think this is really going to be helpful for him and useful for him. And then we talk about the heavyweight title fight, and I'm not going to go too into it, but I'll say this. The principle about Velasquez and Dos Santos has always been the same for me. If Junior wins, it's in the first 2 rounds. If not, Kane has to do the most damage he can in the early round and then just completely dominate him from there. Outside of rounds 1 and 2, Kane can beat him. Kane's cardio's good, he's aggressive, he's got the wrestling. Wrestling can wear you out, but Kane's body can withstand that. And Junior did hit him a few times in the first round. I believe he hit him around there and then he hit him again. And Kane, I was like, fuck. But Kane took those punches. And he just started going for him. And he took him down. It was harder to get him down this time, but he eventually got him down, and he started pummeling him in the face over and over and over and over and over again, to the point where Junior Dos Santos looked like the fucking Elephant Man. He looked like the Elephant Man. But to his credit, he was still trying to fight, and I thought around round 4, that fight, you know what, they might need to stop that fight. By the time we got to round 5 and Cain Velasquez came after him again, I think there was a bit where they were up by the cage and then they kind of scrambled or fell down, and then he just hit him, and Junior was just going like this, with his body just gave out on him. And again, I felt that the skill level was kind of really exposed in the second fight. And I know that, if you watch the prime times, you've got Dos Santos' people saying, well, Junior was overtrained, and they've got their scientific evidence to prove that. And now, Kane hits like a girl. Well, he must hit like a really hard girl with cinder blocks in each hand, because Junior's face was all swollen up like the Elephant Man. And they said what they said, but I thought that the skill level was exposed. That was the real, I don't want to say that was the real fight, but that was the fight that I thought of in my head back in 2010 when this fight was supposed to happen, and then happened in 2011. But again, it tells you something, actually, those last 2 fights, it really tells you something about within the UFC where these 2 divisions have gone, because years back the heavyweight division was kind of stale and stagnant and not very interesting, and 155 kind of was a bit non-existent. And then when they kind of BJ Penn and Sean Shirk, and Kenny Flott, when these divisions have come a long way is what I'm getting at. And I'll tell you what, now the winner of the, fucking hell, I watched the Melendez fight and Sanchez fight and I'm still pumped up. Here's my thing. I think that Verdum's going to face Velasquez next, right? Verdum is the dark horse of the heavyweights, because he just creeps up, and before you realise it, he's right there. But I'll tell you what, I can see Cain Velasquez beating him. I could see Cain Velasquez really putting a pasting on this guy. And is Cain Velasquez the greatest heavyweight in all of MMA? Currently, right now, he is. Of all time, you never know. I mean, he's still got some more fights to have. He's still got more things to do. But he's on the pathway to being up there. Is this a guy that surpasses the great Fabio Emelianenko? Perhaps. Very so. And I always imagined what would have happened if we saw a prime Fedor and a prime Velasquez. And I know some people would say that the prime Fedor would win, but in my opinion, I think the prime Velasquez gives him a lot of problems. And I think the prime Velasquez might beat the prime Fedor. The wrestling, the cardio. Either way, it would be a great legacy fight if that had happened back in the day. I'm going to stop because I'm probably running out of time. I think I've gone over by a few seconds. Love you all. Let me know what you think. If you haven't seen this channel before, I do MMA videos, I do pro wrestling videos, I talk about whatever you like. Comment, rate, subscribe. Guys, I gotta go. If you enjoyed the fights, let me know what you think and tell me what you want to see next. Take care, bye, peace, love you.